Hi, I'm Ryan Rinborg, and I was the writer and producer for Conscience Makes Cowards. Conscience is adapted from what was originally the famous soliloquy from William Shakespeare's Hamlet, the to be or not to be speech.
That is the question.
And of course, we threw quite a few curveballs at that story, the first of which was having Hamlet not be a prince in Denmark, but a modern-day homeless wanderer in an abandoned warehouse, who is not bringing forth a soliloquy, but having a debate between the different parts of his psyche or personality.
Take arms against the sea of troubles. And by opposing, end them. To die. To sleep no more.
I was originally trying to teach myself to use a green screen in 2010, right at the beginning of 2010. And I was trying to come up with a good test for it. And what I finally ended up doing was taking that and adapting it to a monologue that I already knew from Shakespeare, which is the to be or not to be monologue, and kind of inserting the idea of like shoulder angels.
And by sleep, to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks the flesh is heir to.
Coming into this year, I went ahead and adapted the kind of the improv that I did on the spot in that film, that test video, and I adapted it into a script that originally was set in Elsinore Castle, Denmark, and not having a castle readily available, I started kind of looking around and trying to find inspiration from other places, and eventually happened across this this place I have access to through a friend of mine, and that is the mill at Lebanon. And a friend of mine rents out a small part of the warehouses there, and thinking about the different elements in the story of Hamlet, I kind of basically cobbled together this idea of a homeless man who is contemplating suicide and facing all of the same questions that Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, faces. And that allowed us to play around, I think, a lot more with different themes by taking it out of the original setting and kind of and moving us into a new area where we had some creative freedom that wasn't necessarily infringing on things people had done with Hamlet in the past.
I'm Zach Clinny. I was the director for Conscience Makes Coward. I started out the project. I volunteered to be an editor. That didn't work out. So next, Ryan asked me if I wanted to be assistant director, and I expressed some interest in that. And then I came to class, and suddenly I was the unit production manager, which was cool, but I didn't even know what it did at the time. But I was okay with that, and I tried my best to fulfill the role. And then after we had gotten everything good to go, I was working on a budget, so on and so forth, our actor bailed out, and Ryan called me and asked me, hey, do you want to be the director? And I'm pretty sure my first response was no.
There were definitely challenges. I mean, I think there always are.
However, we got to talking about it, and he expressed that he thought I was the one who was most in tune with what he was trying to make, and I knew the most about the project at that point, since I had been working on getting stuff for it, and I had read the script a billion times.
There were some shortcomings to the way production came about.
And so eventually I caved in, and I said, okay, I'll be the director. So I was the director.
We we recast it. I initially was going to direct, and I talked to Zach, and we had discussed the film a lot, and he was originally filling the role of production manager.
My biggest role probably was a liaison just between everybody, is what it felt like sometimes. Just making sure that everybody was on the same page, and just keeping it rolling no matter what.
Something had to give, and it ended up being everything.
Just trying to get the shots that I knew Ryan wanted, and that I knew I wanted, and that I knew Seth wanted, and making sure that there was a sort of compromise between all of those to get the best picture we possibly could.
We couldn't see any way around shooting for 3 days straight.
But after I got in the swing of it, it went much, much better.
But there were still issues.
There was a big challenge, and that's that I showed up sick on the day of shooting at 5 a.m. because I had poisoned myself with fiberglass resin.
And one of the main issues was equipment for audio. The equipment for audio had originally going to be supplied by one of the faculty members, and that fell through, and so another student was going to work with a faculty member in order to get audio equipment to us, and that also fell through kind of at the last minute as we were making our last preparations for the day. And audio plays a huge role in what we were doing with the film, because audio kind of conveyed the crescendo of chaos that converges in Hamlet's mind.
Old men have gray beards that their faces are wrinkled, and resolution is sickly or pale.
Fortunately, we had a great location coordinator who was also being a production assistant, and he was able to get us, a makeshift boom pole. And then I called in to one of the doubles who was also a recording artist, and got him to bring in XLR cable. And we were able to get audio off the ground almost on schedule. And as I said, by the end of the day, we were running an hour and a half ahead of schedule, so it ended up not messing us up too much. But there were definitely setbacks that we faced. On some level, shooting with a live animal is just like shooting with a really expensive actor.
Well, when I was the unit production manager, Ryan had told me, hey, we're going to use a pigeon, and I knew there was a pigeon in the script, and I immediately said, no, this pigeon's not going to work.
With this particular situation, in order to assure that the animal we were borrowing from Animal City, who graciously was able to provide us with a beautiful dove for our Ophelia, we had a lot of concerns about the interaction between the location and the animal.
And I kept trying to subliminally suggest it to Ryan that, I don't know about a bird. So when Ryan wanted me to be director, the very first thing I thought in my head was, oh, thank God, we're using a cat.
The bird, as we found out from Animal City, can be distressed by being in a drafty area. It's more comfortable and safer in warmer climates, and as you can see in the film, this place is just riddled with holes, and we had to plan that at a particular point of day because it was being entirely lit by the daylight that was coming in through the holes in the ceiling. To be perfectly honest, I have never worked on a project that from conception to final product stayed as consistent as this project has.
I wouldn't have started so early. That's about the only thing, really. And I mean, it was fantastic that we got it done as soon as we did.
And just through the process, there were all kinds of setbacks and problems and compromises we felt like we were making along the way.
But to be perfectly honest, we did have more daylight, and we could have started later. It was by the point we had decided, by the point we could have decided to start later, by the point our actor was gone, I think it was kind of too late.
But ultimately, from first having the idea, writing the script, to rendering out that final video and putting it on DVD, it looks exactly like we want it to. So I am perfectly happy with the final product.
It was a lot of fun. At the end of the day, it was Ryan's project and it was Ryan's vision, and I just feel honored that I got to be such a big role in it.
As far as movie shoots go, I can't imagine one going better than the shoot for Conscience Makes Cowards. I'm more normal when I'm playing a schizophrenic homeless guy than when I'm actually a producer.
Rolling. And action.
Old men have gray beards, that their faces are wrinkled and their eyes purging amber and plum tree gum. That's all I have.
Action.
That is the question. Yep.
Good, sure.
Yep.
And now you have a hole in my pants.
Okay.
And thus conscience does make cowards of us all.
Got it.